Hello and welcome back to another exciting edition of Five Things Friday. I'm joined by my co-host, Laura Reeve. Hello.
Hello, Alex.
On another sunny day in Sydney.
It is very sunny in Sydney today.
It's not raining.
No, it's glorious. It's cool. It's cool and crisp and clear.
Oh wow. Okay. It's in the UK. It's coming to a heat wave, and in Spain it already is a heat wave. It was like 30 something degrees, so it's very, very hot. Well, listen, without any further ado, let's jump straight in. Laura, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Hi, everyone. So something that has been on my mind. So my first point is physical retail, or should I say rent, the new CAC, the new customer acquisition cost? So let's caveat this. Probably if you're a very deep data-driven pure play, you might disagree with this completely. So maybe more thinking about mid-market direct-to-consumer brands, going up to more enterprise-level brands and retailers is who my audience or who I'm thinking about is. So I know that if investors or potentially CFOs like fixed costs is the enemy, but I think we're definitely seeing even globally this kind of move that everyone's kind of physical retail is not dead. Online is not the holy grail. We've came to a consensus that the digital channel is the gateway. It's your storefront. It's your flagship store. But we're still seeing a majority of the retailers going into the physical retail. They want to touch, see, feel, experience the brand. So yeah, I'm seeing, why is that happening? I think that what's happening is this, we've spoke about it last week, the experience piece in retail has to be better. Stores are now becoming a little bit of theatre. And I guess it's like, if you're going to open physical retail, make sure it counts. Pick the right place. Do your research first. Obviously, all these things, you can't just open a store in the wrong area. It's not going to work. But if you're doing that investigation, you know it's right. And a little bit this is driven just because of the way people want to shop. But also, it's when I say the new CAC, it's so expensive now to acquire a new customer on Meta. That's just the truth. And we're seeing a lot of mid-market brands, direct-to-consumer brands, they're leaning back into storefront because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to get a new customer. And someone described it like online marketing is like hunting, whereas the physical store is like fishing. So that's my number one point. It kind of dovetails into my second point of what I want to speak to. Since we've been doing this, I've been like, where are the hero Australian brands that really, like that David and Goliath thing? Who's the brands from this market that could really step up and show the world like what is best class omnichannel retail? And that leads me to Aesop. So Aesop is a pretty phenomenal story. It's a Melbourne company. It originated from Melbourne in a store in the 1980s, and it was acquired by L'Oreal 2 years ago for 2.5 billion. It's actually their biggest brand purchase ever. And I guess the reason why I love that, when there's been a lot of doom and gloom about brands, like Aesop isn't cheap. And actually, I don't know if any of you guys have experienced what happens with Aesop. If you're in a Westfield, someone called it, and a post I did, scent marketing. You can smell the store. It's, more brands should do that scent marketing piece. But the thing about Aesop, they've got over 400 stores in 27 countries, really pushing into North America and Asia. Every one of their stores is thoughtfully designed, and there's no standard template. And they've really integrated digital and physical very well. So what I mean by that is, we know that the point is, like, a lot of the customers that went into store, we don't know who they are. Aesop are a real leader in what they do is that first purchase is often done in store, and what they're really thinking about their online as replenishment. So they're really about that customer data. How do they know who Laura is, whether I'm online or in the store? They're really clear in that. And something that I think would be great to take away for a lot of brands here is having that digital lens, or that skill or understanding the C-suite, which I do think is often missing. Because even as I say this, right, like physical retail is the new CAC, and then you look at Aesop that's got 400 stores, they're actually really leading through digital. But what they're doing is they're not expecting the return on investment, or the conversion rate isn't, maybe the metrics is shifted, right? digital now becomes the gateway to the whole business, and the data points to how you measure success has to change. It's really propping up the whole of the store network as well. So yeah, I love the fact that Aesop are really clear. They want, I think last year they had a target of 10% new customer activation, 30% win back rate, and 12% retention growth. So yeah, and they've got a very good mindset of like, it's like land and expand. So I think what's his name, Richard Lindmark, who's been leading a lot of this, he calls it minimal lovable products. So even though they're big, they definitely have to kind of prove, test case, and then expand. So that's my 2. Over to, I don't know if you guys have got anything on that you want to say, or we just...
Yeah, no, I could jump in there, because I think for me, the thing that I'm seeing around the region has been this real desire for digital and mid-market, as Laura talks about, to actually say, you know what, I need to put down roots. I need to come in to set up physical retail. I have built scale in a digital business, but I need to have physical retail. And a bit to Laura's point too, in these businesses, the exco really understand digital, whereas some of the traditional retailers, there's a bit of a gap in knowledge. And because of that, they really struggle with the concept of what I would call anonymous transactions. They can't really, when someone makes a transaction across the Aesop website, they know exactly who they are, and they know how to greet them, either when they arrive on the site, let alone before they start moving into the transaction. And so we had Dion Song from Love Bonito speak at the show.
She was very good. I saw her.
Yeah, she talked a lot about, because they deeply understand their customer.
Actually, do you want to give us some context about Love Bonito? Because most people won't know.
Yeah. Love Bonito is a purpose-driven female fashion brand. It's a fairly accessible price point. It's got retail accessibility across Southeast Asia, particularly Singapore owned and led and founded, but really across the region. Actually, really built for Asian women too, so and sort of more petite sizing. But for them, they as Dion talked about, she said that, we can't have people coming into stores and us not know them. They can't just buy something at top and walk out and we don't know who they are. Yeah. So that's something really important. So they've really worked on understanding their customer, but also meeting them and addressing them of who they are and making sure that they're not anonymous when they make that purchase. And then using the digital channels to wrap. And so they understand some of the requirements. So when they went into physical retail, they started to learn about things like, when I'm shopping online, it's just me. But when I'm shopping in an outlet in Asia, I'm usually there. It's an outing, so I'm with my partner. Yeah. So therefore, I can't have my shopping experience cut short because my husband or boyfriend has had enough and wants to go. So they're building facilities based on learning online, like things like partner benches. So you see a whole bunch of men sitting outside on the benches outside on their phones, but then because they have built this beautiful digital experience and they know lots about their customer, the role of the in-store salesperson is different. And I should have referred to another example up there in terms of a company like Castlery, which is a bit like Temple and Webster in Australia, or a real digital first, homewares, furniture type company. And so their flagship store is beautiful, but and they have really beautiful, room builders on their website, really good functional tools. So you can really, you can build your own experiences at home. So therefore the role of the staff now, because they've done this pre-work, means that they become consultants as opposed to sales staff. And so it's evolving the role of the people in store to enhance the experience, because the person's no longer anonymous. They're known to the organization, and they're coming in halfway through the journey and really completing it when they can touch and feel and see this and create some spatial awareness around the products they're looking to buy. So that's quite cool. So that real link from digital with digital heritage into physical, but never relinquishing the fact they cannot know the customer. They must know the customer all parts of the journey. Yeah. The second one that I'm finding really interesting at the moment for me, and it really was uncovered this year when I started going through the advisory process, is the role of marketplaces at a regional level as opposed to a domestic level. We in Australia are very familiar with eBay, obviously, and we obviously have had Amazon turn up because Amazon saw Australia as an opportunity because we didn't have, the marketplace platforms, one, entirely dominant, and Amazon's done an amazing job at becoming number one. And I think, Laura, you were talking about them being the most searched retailer.
Yeah, I don't think they've got as big as share of wallet as the US does yet. But they're definitely the highest. I think in one of the search results I looked at, they're the highest, I guess, searched website in Australia. So they're definitely not behind the scenes anymore. It's just took them a lot longer to penetrate this market. They've just went at it a lot slower pace. And I think, Reef, it might have been as well to do with COVID. COVID kind of stopped them. Almost shouldn't have stopped them in the tracks, but it did. People.
We have Kingfisher over here, and Kingfisher's like home DIY. B&Q's their brand in the UK, and there's lots of other brands across Europe. And they're, because I interviewed the guy who's in charge of their marketplace, their whole growth strategy into new markets is through the marketplace. But this is where it gets interesting, because this is in, home improvements, paint, screws, all these types of things. So it's interesting to see whether or not you'll see more fragmentation in marketplaces into subcategories, or people want this one store that does it all, which is the Amazon.
And that sort of building on that was really much the Southeast Asia experience, where you look at a marketplace like Shopee, for example, right? And Shopee is serving a purpose for good. Now, so if you're a retailer, say you're a Vietnamese retailer, okay, and you have your website and you have physical stores, but you only operate domestically in Vietnam. But Southeast Asia is quite close together, and it's very easy to find partners to put DCs together and those sort of things. Your ability to sell to customers outside the market, it become really important. And what we're seeing is, if you say you're a Malaysian consumer and you like the pair of shoes that's on the Vietnamese website, you're choosing to buy it not via their website, but via Shopee, because you can see it in your language, you can buy it in your currency, and you've got the Shopee guarantee that if the product doesn't turn up, you get your money back. Yeah. Whereas if you're buying from outside your market from a website and you don't know the brand, then there might be some hesitancy. And also, too, the payment mechanisms are all different. Like Malaysia's all digital wallets. Credit cards aren't really a thing in Southeast Asia, so except for maybe Singapore. So there's different payment mechanism as well. So you can talk about payments, you can talk about language, and you can talk about tapping into the trust of the platform that overcomes some of the trepidation of buying from a retailer in another market that you don't know. So that's been a really interesting thing for me, because all of a sudden marketplaces play a really important role that open up new markets for retailers. And so then if you're that Vietnamese retailer and discovers that all of a sudden you're selling volumes of shoes in Malaysia, maybe there is a time to actually say, well, okay, there's an opportunity here to go and expand into that market, because we know we have appetite for our product in that market. But that's really interesting itself. So they're my two. So a bit about that launch into physical experiences from digital heritage brands and mid-market businesses, and those marketplaces which are really transcending cross-culture, border, currency, to actually open up opportunities for retailers and consumers that otherwise wouldn't have been there.
Do you think that's the future of it then? Is that where we're heading? More Amazon?
I don't know.
If you think about it, right, like when you think about it, like it's called Clearer. Is it called Clearpay? What's Afterpay called in the UK? Right.
Yeah.
So if you think about Afterpay, in a way, Afterpay is becoming a marketplace.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
They're doing their sales days. They're doing it. I think it's like the world is. It's a free for all with marketplaces now, and we've 10 years ago. I mean, I was at eBay. When I first got here, like 15 years ago, it was a little bit of a dirty word, and people were like worried about it. We didn't own the customer, you did. I think that has.
How will my brand be portrayed? In its context, that sort of stuff.
And how do you play with them? And like that song, I think I've sang it before for you, Alex. But that one, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to run away, or when to hide.
All the way when.
Yeah.
A bit of Kenny Rogers. Look at you, Laura. You've changed.
I know. Sorry, I know I wish I could sing it for you, but I think that's the point with marketplaces. You have to be like that. They're there. Everyone's been one. I mean, Shopify with their Shopee is a marketplace. Like really. So I think the world is marketplaces. I think we were in a little bit of a consolidation phase in marketplaces. I think there was a lot of people, a lot of marketplace solutions. Everyone was trying to be one. They realized it's actually harder than you think to become it. And now what we're starting to see is who are the marketplaces that we should play with, have a bit of a strategy and focus. It's interesting as well, from that Asia, like, you know, from the more, like, was it Singapore, is it, or Thailand? Cash and delivery. So Alex, I don't know if
yes, Philippines. So
cash and delivery, even in Thailand, I think it is as well. Or it's massive. It's probably like 30 to 40% they want it. So I think the marketplaces is leaning into, like you said, Reeve.
People like to pay with cash.
They want to play with cash. It's cash on delivery. It's
okay.
Yes,
like
the Philippines is all. So I talked to Hewlett Packard, and they withdrew from the Philippines because if you buy a laptop from HP Laptop, you got two issues. You turn up at the house that you're delivering a laptop, and either the person is not there, or they don't have any cash, and the margin on selling a laptop is quite skinny. So taking it back to the DC because someone doesn't have any money when you've turned up with the product is a bit of a problem, you know? So, you know, in that current paradigm, HP chose not to operate in that market, you know?
Yeah.
It's too...
Yeah. I worked with JD Sport locally into like the Thailand and Singapore, and they hadn't been using cash and delivery, but with their OMS and Ship It, we're using the integrations. It enabled cash on delivery and the best and safest way that you can do cash on delivery, and it significantly, like the revenue increased significantly because it's a big portion of the way people want to shop. So I think that leads into that whole marketplaces and big retailers, they have to be trusted. There's a little bit more skepticism in the, you know, in the region about the trust factor. It's probably why we've seen a lot of the Asian shoppers up until maybe recently would like to buy from Australia. They'd like to buy from American brands. It's starting to pivot, but security and trust is still a bit of an issue. But I spoke at Refassi a wee bit as well, an angle on the marketplace piece. Retail media, Alex, more probably in your world, it's obviously important in Australia, but we don't have as many big retailers. We've got like the Coles and Woolies. But Amazon is the biggest retail media platform. So if you think about anyone like want to play in that space, they're going to start to want to get into Amazon. Does that mean that they want to also list their products? Potentially. That's a bit of a draw card to listing on Amazon as well, because they're going to play in the retail media space as well.
But I think Amazon is well placed in that, and we all know this is that, you know, if you're trying to work out whether they're buying a house or having a child or buying a new car, you know, the guys like Amazon have got these signals so far down, so locked down that their predictive modeling can really tell. So they've got real value in their data they hold about their customers, and so therefore, you know, that retail media offering compared with, you know, with a supermarket versus a department store is a little bit different because I just don't have the depth of knowledge that people at Amazon have. Yeah. You know, I mean, I remember working with Trade Me in New Zealand a decade ago, and they had really drilled into this and really worked out the value of their data because Trade Me is more ubiquitous than eBay is in Australia. It's incredible. Everybody has a Trade Me account in New Zealand. That's why it's been so hard to penetrate. But the fact is that they could see. It was like playing poker. They had everyone's tell down. If they knew your tell for having a kid or buying a house or, you know, moving cross town or whatever, they could tell you what these people were going to do by what they were doing on the site. It was incredible.
So next week I'm moderating at eTail London, and it's really interesting. It's sort of touches on what you've both been talking about, which is sort of the post-purchase and how much. Well, I guess this for me, I'm going to be listening because what's interesting is the potentially 5 fellow speakers or panel members are all female-led founders. And so, from intimate products, which I'll be curious to do people want to be recognized on this checkout, or do they just want to be, just let me get, I want to shop my products and get out. I don't necessarily need to build a relationship. I don't know. Obviously, female hygiene products, probably you do, because there's nothing embarrassing about that. But maybe it's my teenage brain that's thinking, for the other products you don't want, but maybe you do, right? And so there's a whole element around there. But then how does that contrast to food, right? In sort of these sort of cake products? It's super fascinating in this whole, again, how much effort do retailers put, or e-commerce brands in this case, into making sure that the post-purchase journey is as effective as the path to purchase. And actually, to be fair, I think it's probably, we'll find out that it's, it's difficult, it's complicated, because whether or not you have the systems in place to be able to build those relationships with your customers, there'll be something missing. So that's what I'm going to be focused on next week, I think Tuesday. So I'll be able to bring it back.
So that's quite an interesting area as well, because everyone knows in retail that the work really starts when someone presses buy. We in Australia, we have a company called Bird's Nest that everybody knows. And Jane Kay, who's the female founder of that business, her claim to fame was her handwritten notes they used to send out with every package. So it was that post-purchase moment they created just to say thank you for being a customer.
Yeah,
I've had that. Like, these unique touches that you put in the delivery box when people are opening them, and trying to keep that sort of special moment. I don't know. It's interesting because you think about, you guys were talking about marketplaces, how you do that at scale, right? How does that then, in industrial level, how do you create post? And for me, returns is you can't talk about post-purchase without talking about returns. And we've gone through this cycle here with returns are free. No, now you're going to pay for them, or there's going to be some form of cost to deter people from returning. Although Amazon is still, for Prime members, offering free returns. It's just an interesting area. I think a lot of focus has gone into. And again, it wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about AI. You got Perplexity, who doesn't want, if you're searching for an item on Perplexity's AI platform, they'll take you to the buy page directly. So you circumvent the whole website that, the retailers spent so much money on.
I think it's like Alex, like that whole thing, post-purchase should have been the most important thing always, but I think it's becoming more important to look at now because the funnel's completely shattered, right? People are coming in from different places. If you're on marketplaces, it's even more, do it, but know that they own the customer. And if you have a customer direct in your site, you've got first party data, use it, leverage it, harness it is becoming, it's like that retention piece. One email could get them to buy something again. I think the piece in it is where we're now with that is it needs to be more considered as well. So everyone's doing post-purchase, everyone's doing retention marketing. And now, it's like how you do it, how sophisticated is it becoming is the game that we're in right now.
But also, it can be quite simple. It could be handwritten. I'll give you an example, which is a very male-dominated one. I love motorbikes, as everybody knows. And I buy gear online all the time. Afterpay is my friend because they never see the total cost. My wife never sees the total cost of a pair of boots or a helmet or whatever. But my son has a particular. I think we buy at AMX, which is one of the big brands, retailers, and we buy there because there is a sticker pack that basically arrives in every little package of stuff. So my son, who's 11, is going, you can't, if you're going to buy that, Dad, you've got to buy it from AMX because he gets all the stickers. So it's just simple things like that which create momentum for the next purchase, right?
Yeah.
And it's because, Laura started full circle and talked about CAC, right? An acquisition, right? But it's those little things that means that the second and third and fourth purchase don't cost any money for the retailer because that little bit of magic happens post the first purchase. Yeah. So, and sometimes we overthink things too. People are people. They just want things to,
Yeah.
So there's a bit of that as well.
I'll come back and report back on what the outcome was.
I'd love Alex to hear if they say anything, because I think what's happened as well is that post-purchase has became like, what's the ROI in that? What's the conversion rate? And now we're going back to a wee bit of the art and the feeling side, which is a little bit hard to measure the attribution. And and it's, if we just have every email out is to try and get them to buy something, you're going to lose the brand story. So it would be good to hear how they're thinking about the sales, the repeat purchase versus like the brand recognition and longevity and positioning. Otherwise, should we just all become a big marketplace and
I think my honest feeling on marketplaces, could be wrong, will go the same way as apps. There was a time where every retailer had to have their own app. And then they realized over time that sunk cost into having an app isn't giving the returns, right? Because you need to keep it updated. It needs to be cross-platform. There needs to be a reason for someone to go to your specific app. And so therefore apps went away and people moved on to, e-commerce sites. And so, Laura, I will report back. Thank you. Closing thoughts, anything before all the technical problems that I've had. Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much. See you same time, same place next week.
All right, mate. Thank you. Thanks, Laura. See ya. See ya.